Viewers, good evening. Welcome to another edition of The Point on My Media Prime. We are glad to have you once again follow us live on this special channel. This day on The Point, we are going to be receiving as a guest the Communication Secretary for the Social Democratic Front in the person of Denis NKEMLEMO. He's going to be telling us the stance of the SDF with respect to the coming regional elections, and also tell us if there are any shifts with respect to their proposals as far as the ongoing Anglophone crisis is concerned, not forgetting the planned manifestation to oust President Paul Biya built for the 22nd of September 2020 by some political and civil society platforms in Cameroon. Good evening once again, you're welcome. We are glad to have you, Mr. Denis, on The Point for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. The pleasure is mine. You have a beautiful media house here. It's a wonderful investment, and I feel highly honored to be here. I want to also greet the televiewers and hope that this discussion today will clear so many minds on the major issues, and especially the position of the SDF on topical hot issues affecting our country now.
Okay, what is making news? What is making news across the nation? We know it's the planned 22nd manifestation that is expected to take place across the nation on Tuesday. That is the day after tomorrow. But I want us to start with the regional elections. Regional elections are the talks of the day. We find especially the CPDM now doing what they call investiture. What would you want people to understand with the current stance of the SDF vis-a-vis regional elections?
Well, before the regional elections were announced by the head of state, there were a lot of agitations.
Yeah.
And we saw that coming. There were a lot of agitations from the powers that be, and we saw that coming. And so before that announcement, the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, His Excellency John Frundi, brought out, on behalf of the party, brought out a circular, a communique that was widely published in all the media houses, be them conventional media and social media platforms. And we were very categorical and clear in that communique that we will not be party to any eventual elections. And within a few hours or days after that communique, Mr. Biya came out to make public these regional elections for 6 December 2020. We are not party to it, and we predicate our position of not being part of this election on the fact that these elections, like so many elections in the past, are tailored to suit the political whims and caprices of Mr. Biya and his party. The election process in this country has been shown beyond reasonable doubt that the election process in this country has excluded the sovereign people of Cameroon from the process of decision making, choosing their representatives. Let me just talk about the one we are talking about now.
Okay.
The regional elections.
Yeah.
The electorate of the regional elections is made up of municipal councillors and representatives of traditional authorities. We are just from the 2020 municipal elections that are supposed to have designated municipal councillors who will then participate in the regional elections. Unfortunately, the process of the municipal elections is not yet over.
Okay.
It's not yet over, and we are superimposing another elections whose success will depend on the success of the previous election, the municipal election. Why do I say the process is not yet over?
Yeah, because I was going to ask you to explain.
Yes, the process is not yet over because we have, as of now, so many cases pending at the administrative bench of the Supreme Court, which is the highest authority on election, deciding on election litigations. We have so many cases pending there. The Supreme Court has not yet given an answer, a definitive answer, to those municipal election litigations, which means that the fate of municipal councillors whose election have been contested is hanging on the balance. Yeah. And the balance can sway either way. And it happens that these are the municipal councillors who are called to vote on 6 December to put in place regional councillors. Now, just imagine why we had to, the state, the regime, had to precipitate to call these elections without having come to an end of the process of the previous election, which would now put in this. And that is a serious problem. This is very serious if you take into consideration that of the multiple cases pending at the administrative bench of the Supreme Court, we have more than 21 cases in the Northwest region alone, which implies, this is very important, Leonard, which implies that if we win those cases,
the regional elections,
the regional assembly
becomes
in the Northwest
becomes North.
will be SDF. It will be SDF. Will constitute a majority of electorate that can't make us control the Northwest, the Northwest Regional Assembly. So you see how serious the matter is. Now, with the pressure that we put up, the administrative bench of the Supreme Court, in order to solve the problem, complicated it more. Why? Because they hurriedly call for the hearing of those cases on the 23rd of September. And on the 23rd of September, when the last date for the candidatures to be submitted for this regional election is on the 22nd of September. So here you see a clear manipulation of state institutions to suit the whims and caprices of the regime and the ruling party. Yeah.
So what you are saying is that even if the court rulings from the Supreme Court,
in our favor,
were to come out in your favor, nothing will change.
Because
you will not be able.
We will not be able to put in candidatures for this election with the hope that we will take at least one region. So you see, we are tired of this, of state institutions being used to ambush political parties, ambush the Cameroonian population, ambush those who think differently from the party in place.
Yeah, but knowing how this government functions, the SDF should know that very, very difficult. It is very difficult for this government to shift positions. Now, a date has been set already, the 6th of December, for regional elections. Should the government go on to hold elections, though the SDF says they are boycotting? What changes?
Well, that is a good question. Our aim of refusing to be part of this election is not to threaten the government.
Okay.
You have to know that that was the principal, one of the principal causes of our decision not to be part of this election. But the national chairman's communique, the SDF communique through the SDF position through the communique of the national chairman also talks of the fact that if one of the reasons of organizing regional election is to devolve power to the people, then it is a foregone conclusion that this regional election is a missed step.
Okay.
It's a missed opportunity. Because when you look at the law on decentralization, and then you look at the recent bill on decentralization that was passed in Parliament, you realize that the regions still depend on the central government in Yaoundé. Because one of the most obnoxious situation that we face in the administrative side of this country is the role that divisional officers, senior divisional officers, and governors play.
And they are supervisory authorities of most.
Yes, and this bill that was, this code on decentralization that was passed in Parliament, does not scrap off
this position,
this hegemonic role of governors and dues on the life of the people, especially in the northwest and southwest regions where they claim to be given a special status. They are still very present and strong. And let me tell you, recently the government went ahead and pumped a lot of money to governors to use with the local administration, that is the DOs and the senior divisional officers, to create vigilante groups in the villages, different villages, especially in the northern and south, all over the country. And you, as a journalist, you know that it is not the role of government agencies to create vigilante groups. Vigilante groups come up when communities find that conventional security provided by the state is insufficient, and they organize themselves.
What they call auto-defense groups.
Yes, and create vigilante groups. Vigilante groups are not created by government agencies. We condemn that, and that is not even what makes it very bad. What makes it very bad is that we are reliably informed that in the Northwest, and I think it is the same in most countries because we know how our administration operates, they were supposed to give 1 million francs, governors were supposed to give 1 million francs to the sub-divisional officers, to the DOs, to create those vigilante groups. The governors call them to come and sign out 1 million francs each, but which they were to take home 200,000 francs. And they have refused to do that. It's just that they don't have the courage to come out and denounce, but we have been reliably informed. This is the type of interference. This is the type of hegemonic role that the administration plays when we follow Mr. Bia's decentralization. And
that, which means that definitely you are not expecting anything to change.
There will be changes. There will be changes after these regional elections. But unfortunately, the changes will be for the worse.
Okay.
It will be for the worse. It cannot be better. It will be for the worse.
Yaoundé is going to have more powers.
Yaoundé will use that election and the structures put in place as window dressing to deceive national and international opinion that they have effectively devolved power to the people, which in reality the people will not see any change. That's why I say it will be worse.
Okay.
It will be worse because they have an argument that they have moved on, that they have progressed, that they have completed the process of decentralization, but which they have done nothing. They have just changed only the name, put the structures, look at the number of councils in Cameroon, and look at finally the CPDM will control all the regional councils in Cameroon, and with this party discipline and this their modus operandi that stipulates that whatever the president of the republic says is law. How will that affect devolution of power? That's what I'm talking about. So it will make things worse.
It's going to make it's going to make things worse.
And we therefore, if I elaborated very well on this, it is to tell you that the SDF has always stood for federalism, because we know that it is through federalism that effective devolution of power can be done for the benefit of the people. Because with federalism, if we maintain the title of governors, those governors will be elected by the people. And if there's a need to create local vigilantes to support communities where there is security threat, the money and the means to do that will not come from Yaoundé. It will be done by the local people, empowered by elected mayors who will be the chief executive officers of the different subdivisions and councils.
Yeah, but you are not going for elections now. The elections, you say, definitely are going to hold, because the government may not be moved by your action. Now, is the SDF having a plan to engage the government if they were to go on to hold elections? Like what Professor Maurice Kamto is doing today. He says, if you call for elections, this is our action. Is the SDF also thinking that should the elections go on, they are going to engage a move?
We are not there for political gesticulation. We are not there to seek political notoriety. I understand the infancy of some political parties. They want to be noticed. They want to seek that notoriety. They want to be seen to be relevant, even when effectively they are not relevant. With us, we have an agenda. And the agenda is to make sure that the big majority of Cameroonians finally have their federalism, which they want, because the big majority of Cameroonians are for federalism, whether Francophone or Anglophones. And if His Excellency Nijon Frundi was not deprived the mandate to rule Cameroon in 1992, when he won the presidential elections, the Anglophone problem would not have got to the level in which it is. The crisis would not have had it, because he would have implemented federalism, because that was our main ideology, would have implemented it, and there would have been this devolution of power. So what we are doing is, we are doing a very high-level reflection on how to bring the Cameroonians together to put pressure in order to have what they want, which is federalism. That is what we are. That's what we are building up.
Yeah, but there's something
and before you ask the question, so we see this regional election as a distraction. It's just a distraction, and we will not be distracted by these regional elections. We are reflecting with concrete, patriotic, committed Cameroonians across the political board on how to put in a system, an institutional reform, deep level institutional reforms that will accommodate the form of state which will be appropriate to reach the aspirations of a country as diversified and complex like Cameroon. Because a country as diversified and complex like Cameroon cannot be ruled by one man from A to D.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, the government will tell you that we must hold this, the regional elections in December as soon as possible, because there was a major national dialogue that held last year in Yaoundé, September 30th to the 4th of October, and the government thinks that the population is expecting a lot from it, especially the people of the southwest and northwest regions. That is why we need to do the regional elections so that power can effectively be given down to the regions, and why not the municipalities. Now, what is unique? Why do you think the government thinks regionalism is going to fix Cameroon's problem? Why do you think federalism is the best form of government that suits the complexities that Cameroon is living today?
Let me first of all say that the government cannot argue that the regionalism or decentralization, because that's how they call it. Yeah. They say regional election is just to complete the process of decentralization that, according to them, started long ago. Do you think that the problem that has brought more than 3,000 deaths in the Northwest and Southwest officially, and unofficially more than 10,000 deaths, do you think that those deaths have occurred because the people were clamoring that they have not completed the process of decentralization? I said no. Do you think that the crisis, multiple crises that Cameroon has now in the far north, in the east, insecurity problem, do you think that the rampant and severe poverty that has engulfed the country now, where the country has been tied in a package and given to one man to do whatever he likes with it, this is because decentralization has not gone to its logical end? The government has no argument now to say that they have to complete the process of decentralization through these regional elections and they will solve the problem of Cameroon, because so far they are the last stage of their decentralization process. But we have the impression that Cameroon has gone worse and worse. So with magic one, with this decentralization, especially done the way it is done, for the civilian government to have its hegemony on the people as usual, which magic, which miracle would that solve? So it is just political argument for politics' sake. Now, let me come to the point that you have raised. What is the difference? Because in terms of your question, you want to know the difference between federalism and
because you say the solution to Cameroon's problem is federalism. The government thinks that decentralization, effective decentralization,
and which has failed because they are the last stage of decentralization, and we have not seen. We have nothing to write home about. It is not that last stage that will create a magic one. That's what I'm talking about. Now, when we come to federalism, federalism is gives the authority to the different lower structures, which are manned by the people, to take important decisions about their lives, to think about their own projects, their own vision, and choose people to implement that vision. Let me just be a bit concrete here. In federalism, governors who are at the head of each federal state are elected by the people and not chosen from one man in Yaoundé. The municipal authorities, that is the mayors, are elected by the people and they control the resources of their region or of their municipalities, and they put forward a program which they campaigned for, and the people bought it. They apply it without asking Yaoundé for consultations. Let me come to a level of economy. In terms of, within the federal structure, which the SDF postulates that it should be implemented, the budget of the country that goes to each state is negotiated, it's well clearly put in the constitution. It is not, the budget that goes to each federal state is not part of the national budget that goes to each federal state, is not dependent on the whims and caprices of the one who is in power or the party that is ruling, because in the constitution it is clearly defined which portion of national wealth is retained at the level of each federal state and which percentage of the federal budget goes to each federated state. So whether you come to power and love a federated state or not, you will still be forced to give what is their due, because it is a constitutional right well spelled out in terms of percentage and not amount. And the resources that come, the resources that are in each of these federated states, the distribution of those resources is clearly stated in the constitution. More importantly too, the government hands off a lot of things that can be done locally and controls all the issues and aspects that are very national. Like the army, the army is national, controlled by the federal government, the diplomacy, controlled by the federal government, education policy, controlled by the federal government, and those other aspects of national life that can be managed locally, the government hands off. And that's why we believe.
Okay,
just 1 second.
Okay.
That's why we believe very strongly that the Anglophone problem would not have arisen if we maintained the federal system that we started in 1961. Because what will the Anglophones complain of when they can manage their resources within Southwest and Northwest?
Okay. Now, what has changed in the electoral system today? Because many persons will ask that during the presidential elections, there was the Anglophone problem.
Yes.
The electoral code was the same.
Yes.
Almost everything was the same. You went for the elections. You went for municipal parliamentary elections.
Yes.
You went for the major national dialogue in Yaoundé.
Yes.
And today, you are not running for regional elections. What definitely is not working out?
Excuse me. You see, sorry, the Social Democratic Front has decided to be where the battle is fought.
Okay.
Because if you are not at the battlefront, you will not be able, your detractors.
Okay, understand.
Sorry?
No, I get your line of thinking. Yeah.
Your detractors will say, you had these wonderful proposals, you had these wonderful actions, the time that you were supposed to come and present them, you stayed away. So we don't want to give them that excuse.
Okay.
That is point number one. If you allow me to continue, that is point number one.
Yes.
So it is on the basis of that before the national dialogue, when we're talking of national dialogue, the SDF, who has been meeting almost on monthly basis because of the seriousness of the Anglophone crisis in the Northwest and Southwest, have come out with several NEG resolutions calling for dialogue. Even we went to the extent of soliciting that the government should employ the services of the national chairman when Prime Minister John Gute visited the Northwest and Southwest to mediate. The issue of dialogue has always been very important in our minds. Imagine the contradiction if the government called a dialogue and then we don't go there. What argument shall we give to the people? It is Chinua Achebe says, a right man, a famous Nigerian writer, author, novelist, says, a right-thinking man does not refuse a call. But you can get the invitation, go there and refuse what you are asked to do. And so we went to the major national dialogue. Through the keynote address of the national chairman, he presented the position of the Social Democratic Front, and which were very highly applauded by so many people in the hall and out of the hall who saw our position. Unfortunately, it was not taken into consideration. We said the agenda should include form of state. Unfortunately, it was not taken into consideration. If today we say with authority that the major national dialogue, if it was convened to solve the Anglophone problem, failed, we have a lot of authority to say that because we went in, we gave proposals, we debated, but we have a very stubborn government. So imagine if we had stayed away. That is the point.
You would not know what transpired inside.
And people will say, if you were serious about dialogue, you would have gone there and made your case. That's why we went. When you talk about the elections that followed, the municipal elections and the municipal elections, the point is this. Local government is very expensive to SDF.
Okay.
Because the bedrock of federalist democracy is local government. In federalism, local government are the real anchor of power, because it is there that the local collectivities, the local people take decisions through their local government, implement them. We had to go for those elections because of that principle of local government being very important to us. And one of the greatest advantages, the silver lining in the dark cloud, of those elections is that we came out of those elections very convinced that the war going on in the Northwest and Southwest was politically motivated for political gains. If we had stayed away, we would not have got this, because we now understand that the CPDM regime, and most especially CPDM barons from the Northwest and Southwest, have convinced the regime to perpetrate this war for electoral purposes. Because, and this is clear to everybody, during the elections, you are a journalist and you monitor things on the ground. Before the elections, 90% of those who were kidnapped for ransom, were even killed, were SDF, despite the fact that when this thing started, we were defending the Anglophone cause. The party that is authorizing their killing were left aside. So during the election itself, I take the case of late Honorable Banda, may he so rest in peace. You saw the war between Bamenda and Batibo, his home ground, while many CPDM people went and voted and organized elections with the military and the few old councillors, outgoing councillors they brought in, unperturbed. So we saw a complicity between those who are fighting on the ground and the government, and now we now understand that this crisis, the perpetration of this crisis, is for electoral gains. How do you imagine, Leonard, that a region where the highest killings by the government has come from, they will have the highest votes? Then you now understand. So we went into these elections to discover, to understand most of these things. Now we can talk authoritatively on the war in the Northwest and Southwest as part of the government's policy for electoral gains. And so we can talk on that, and then we can reflect on a new way forward. And we are already doing that. I told you that we are building, for 30 years we have fought for liberties in Cameroon, since the SDF was launched in 1990. We have had a lot of experience. We have made things move. We have done very slowly. We have a lot of experience that we want to build up. We have. I consider what is just happening now with the SDF as some half time. You know,
some half time. But
yes,
many persons are really concerned. Some people say that you've come under heavy attacks because you have not carried the Anglophone problem as much as people would have expected. But can people understand why most of these attacks are targeted towards the SDF, especially with recent attacks at the home of the Intericon home of the national chair of the Social Democratic Front? What has the SDF not done for the Anglophones?
And that is why we say this issue is no longer an Anglophone problem. This issue is about SDF. Because you yourself have said it. Who has fought for the Anglophones in this country more than the national chairman? Who has received tear gas? Who has received bullets? Who has received intimidation about the Anglophone problem, about the liberation of Cameroon more than the national chairman? Which Anglophone presently, even those who are, I will not say they are making noise, who are arguing very forcefully from abroad, how many of them have done even 10% of what the national chairman has done? The national chairman is a monument for Cameroon and for the Anglophones. But of course, the national chairman has a lot of political enemies, because it's a political battle. It's no longer the Anglophone problem. You should know that the Anglophone problem is beyond just a political problem. I mean, a political problem in the sense that where people use it to position themselves in politics. It is by far beyond that. And unfortunately, just as normal, the national chairman has a lot of political enemies who use the Anglophone problem to say every type of thing about him. The national chairman goes in record as the only Cameroonian, including the head of state and other political agitators outside, that has met the fighters on the ground. He has received them in his compound. He has gone and he has told the governor of the Northwest that I received them, because if you have been talking to them and receiving them, the narrative will have changed. You call them terrorists to be wiped out. But I call them children that we can talk.
He's been kidnapped also.
That is why I'm saying that even they have been kidnapped twice. And when he was kidnapped on the way to Kumbo to bury late Honorable Banaza, may he so rest in peace, he was taken, and there they said they took him for discussion. And there the chairman spoke his mind to them. There was an interchange. There was a discussion. And he stood his ground on the fact that he cannot withdraw his parliamentarian from Yaoundé. The second kidnap took place in his compound, where he was picked from his compound. He went and told them the same message. So, which Cameroonian personality, even including military generals who are fighting, administrative officers, the governors and so on,
have come face to
face with them to discuss with them? No, so we should be serious. The national chairman, in a country that was serious, the national chairman should be decorated and should be empowered to do more, because he could serve as a bridge. So I'm saying all this to tell you that the attacks on the national chairman, on his property, on his house,
motivated,
and on his members of his family are politically motivated. I will not mention names, but you know some of the overzealous, extremely overzealous Anglophone members of government in Yaoundé, whose house have never had a scratch there, who have never been attacked there. Why the national chairman, who is fighting, and he has written 3 letters to the head of state, and he has published some of those letters, informing the head of state that this situation is serious, come down and solve this problem before it gets out of hand, who has gone to the state house when the indomitable lions were coming back with trophy, heard the hand of the head of state, dragged him and told him that, Mr. President, you need to give attention to the situation in the Northwest. Who has done that? But those who sit in Yaoundé, overzealous government ministers sit in Yaoundé and say, and we will have no problem, and say that it is there are terrorists who are doing all those things, extreme overzealousness. Their property is intact. They go to Bamenda and come back, you don't hear a gunshot. But it is a national chairman who has sacrificed everything to defend the Anglophones and defend Cameroonians, who is receiving attacks from all over, whose property is being destroyed, whose family members are being kidnapped. These are clear facts. Okay, that these attacks are politically motivated. They have nothing to do with Anglophone.
Mr. Denis, as we speak today, Cameroon is under a situation where people do not know how Tuesday is going to look like. I'm talking about the 22nd of September, where political forces and some civil society organizations are calling for a manifestation to oust the President of the Republic. Your chairman, the national chairman, I asked him last week when I had him on a different TV program, he explained their position. Has anything changed?
Not yet, not at all, not at all. You see, let me start first of all, Leonard, by telling you and the viewers through your channel that the Social Democratic Front defends the right for public manifestations.
Okay.
Very strongly. We are up to where we are today. We have some experience about public manifestations. We have shifted lines in the political space of Cameroon through public manifestation. We have been doing that for 30 years. I will not spend a lot of our time to count on the different instances that we've done that. We think that there are 3 ways of sending a strong message to those who rule a people. The sovereign people have 3 ways to send a strong message to their leaders: through elections, through strikes, and through peaceful street manifestations. So we can never be against street manifestations. That is a very clear point. I want to be very clear on that. Now, the issue is we do not believe that insurgency can lead to political change of institutions. That is to say, we believe that the streets cannot do institutional changes in a country. If you look at so many countries that have gone through insurrection, I want to name Burkina Faso, which Cameroonians cite a lot. I want to name Sudan. I want to name the most recent Mali.
Yeah.
You have Tunisia and Algeria. You are a journalist, and you may know some of these things more than me, because you carry out news everywhere there is news. You are there. Tell me which of these countries have started, even Senegal that is taken as an example in Africa, where street manifestations have put in a change of institution. What they put in the end is the change of individuals and not change of institution. I challenge anybody to tell me the contrary. If you look at the present leader of Burkina Faso, he was a Compaorés man. If you look at Abdoulaye, how do we call him, the president of Senegal, present president of Senegal, he was working with Abdoulaye Wade. If you look at, if I can go to, presently in Mali, those frontline opposition political parties, are they the one, the president has been ousted, are they the one in power? No. If I come to Cameroon, the UPC uprising that was fighting for genuine independence of Cameroon, because they used insurgency to get independence. When that independence came, did it go to those who were fighting, or it went to the colonial masters that gave? So when we want to provoke an insurgency, it's a way to transfer power from one dictator to the other. So we don't believe in taking over power from the streets, because if we succeed even in sending the people out on the streets massively, at the end of the day, we will not be able to get that power. The military comes in, as in Mali and other countries that I have cited, they take over on the negotiating table, and for transition, they will put the person that they have confidence in, who has been with them in the administration, and the opposition will not get anything. That is why we are saying that, having had this experience, we don't think that insurgency is a good thing for democracy, because of the reasons that I have just given. Because it is not the people who decide when it comes to insurgency. It is those who have the power. They will shift away one man and bring in another man. If the people who are planning a public manifestation on the 22nd, Tuesday, if they were sincere in pushing for reforms, they will have joined us. We have done a lot of pushing for reforms. The electoral code. They will have joined the SDF. Yes, recently, the latest communique that I saw coming from, signed by Professor Kamto, and then another party, PAP, I think it's Denis, Mr. Denis, and then the other few political parties, 2 or 3, I don't even know them, and what is written civil society, I don't know them, but that is not the issue. The issue is what I'm saying. When I read through that communique, I saw that they just went and picked the communique that the national chairman signed. Okay, and then added and signed. We are going to continue the program. We are almost getting to its end, but let's take a short break. We're coming right back to continue our discussions with the National Communication Secretary of the Social Democratic Front, Mr. Denis NKEMLEMO. Okay, welcome back. You are watching The Point on My Media Prime. Our guest on the show today is the National Communication Secretary for the Social Democratic Front, Mr. Denis NKEMLEMO, all the way from Yaoundé to tell the SDF position with regards to topical issues, especially current political happenings in Cameroon today. So the message that the SDF has with regards to the planned 22nd September manifestation is clear. Yeah, very clear. I've just explained that before the pause, that we are not part of it.
Okay.
Because insurgency, even though they are calling street manifestations peaceful, but initially we heard that it is to make Mr. Biya go, and then secondly, after when they saw the communique that the national chairman signed, putting certain conditions where he would not go for elections, they take that and say it is first of all after those conditions that if he doesn't apply them, then he will go. And I think that you don't announce, start a street manifestation by saying that somebody who is a head of state, no matter how badly he was elected, should go. It is not legal. I think that we should be fighting for reforms. And as I said, if they were fighting for reforms, they should join us, because we have been in this and we continue fighting for those reforms. So the chairman made our position very clear, as I said at the beginning, that we have to, one, first of all, settle the post-electoral litigations pending at the administrative bench of the Supreme Court. Secondly, that we have to organize a ceasefire in the northwest and the southwest region in order to engage in meaningful dialogue to find a solution to the Anglophone problem. Thirdly, that we have to look for institutional reforms that will include an inclusive electoral code and an election organizing body, which will be different from this one, which is tailored to suit the whims and caprices of the regime. These are the positions that we said that if they are taken into consideration before these elections take place, then we will be able to look at, go back to our decision. Okay.
Professor Maurice Kamto and his allies want the immediate departure of President Paul Biya, but the SDF wants electoral reforms.
Not just electoral reforms. We want institutional reforms.
Institutional reforms. Do you believe this system can give you what you want?
Of course. If we push them, with the force that is necessary. You know, most leaders, they reform or comply with the will of the people out of constraint. Most, because they're afraid of the consequences if they go against the will of the people. We need to muster enough pressure. And SDF has a lot of experience for 30 years of mounting pressure. We need to muster a lot of effort, mount pressure for institutional reforms, and not to send one dictator packing to bring in another dictator. Because when it comes to a change of persons and not a change of reforms and institutions, we will have the same results. Cameroon is already, I don't know why Cameroonians are memories of most Cameroonians are very short. When President Aidjo left in 1982, I was a young child getting into secondary school. I saw the euphoria outside. I saw the happiness. I saw the joy on the streets. But very few years after that, Cameroonians discovered that it was a change of persons and not a change of institutions, because this is a continuation of the Aidjo reign. Proof is that many people who were ministers with Mr. Biya under Aidjo are still ministers in this government up to today. Proof is that the people that help Aidjo to manage the system are the ones still being recycled today. Proof is that public space is stifled and confiscated of power in Yaoundé is the same as it was under Aidjo. So this will have given us the experience to know that we are not out for change of persons. We are out for institutional reforms that will a change of system. So we don't care who is in it today, so far as the system, the present system that confiscates everything is changed. So that is the problem. Cameroon should not have a third dictator. We have a second dictator. We shouldn't go for a third one, That would be too expensive for Cameroon.
Now, with respect to the planned 22nd September manifestation built for Tuesday, we've seen the Minister of Territorial Administration come out, I'm sure, twice. We've heard from the Minister of Communication.
Yes.
We've seen a communique from the Minister of Public Health, who is raising the issue for a possible propagation of the coronavirus. We've seen lots and lots of communiques from the government bench, and also very tough ones. Can we understand why the government is taking that position now?
It doesn't surprise me, because those are instincts of dictatorship.
Okay.
Yes, so it is only somebody who has believed that we are in a democracy that will be surprised. Those are the instincts of dictatorship. Because if the SDF were in government, as I said at the beginning of this program, we don't have anything against street protests, street manifestations, provided they are peaceful. Mm-hmm. And so they are expressing, the people have a right to tell the government that they are angry.
Yes, but
nobody can stop that right.
Can a manifestation that seeks to ask a government be truly peaceful in our context?
But that is why we don't agree with the manifestors.
Okay.
That's why we don't agree with the manifestants. We don't agree with them because of that. And I think that the government will allow them to go out and manifest, even if you say, Leonard, even if you say, Bia must go. Monsieur Bia doit partir, as they say. Even if you say that, and you are moving around and saying that and shouting that, how does it make him go if you are not destroying property, if you are not blocking traffic, if you are not in any way bringing the country to a standstill? It is not everybody who likes Mr. Bia being there.
Is it possible to do what you are saying without causing disturbing traffic?
I don't like to be a prophet in the sense that many leaders in this country have decided to be prepared, that they know what will happen before it happens. Mm-hmm. Why not allow them, and then it gets to that, you use that, because the government has the powers. You use that and you'll be citing that you have broken this law, you have gone against this article of the law, rather than using the future tense, you will. You know that in court we don't cite in the future, we cite in the past. Mm-hmm. You have done this article, this is this. You said it was peaceful, but this is what you did. Now, my question, I don't know whether we understand each other.
Yes, very, very clearly.
So we know that those who want to manifest have the right to manifest. We cannot refuse them that right, provided it is done within the ambit of the law. Mm-hmm. Let us not forget something. The public manifestations are authorized by the constitution of this country, by the laws of this country. Mm-hmm. It is when you misuse it that the high hammer of the law, heavy hammer of the law gets onto you. Okay. So as it has not yet happened, how do we know it has been misused? Okay. So that is the point. The SDF has an obligation to talk as Democrats, because we are Democrats. When we will be in power, and we think that not far from now we'll be there, we will allow people to manifest, to show their discontent on the streets, provided they do it within the strict ambit of the law.
Now, you say very soon you are going to be in power. Can the Social Democratic Front, do you believe that you can take power through the ballot box? Today income.
I think it's very possible.
Okay.
Look at Ghana. Mm-hmm. Ghana in the 80s was a very unfortunate country. Today, Ghana is a reference of democracy in Africa. It depends on the dynamism of the people, the political education of the people, and the patriotism of those who are acting as the alternative force, not those who want to position themselves. All those things come into play. I think that Cameroon is still within the limit that it can be saved. I think so. On the contrary, my dear brother, I think that if a type of change is a change that will be a change of persons and not a change of institutions, I rather prefer that we still hold this as it is and fight to have real change than to have a change which will be a change of persons. The Cameroonians were very disappointed under the dictatorship of Aidjo for 23, 24 years. Cameroonians have been very disappointed under the dictatorship of Mr. Biya for close to 40 years, 38 years. Imagine if the third president comes and perpetuates that dictatorship. Are you sure Cameroonians will withstand again? That's why we have to do it methodically, gradually, and do it well, so that we don't fall into a third dictatorship.
Now, is the SDF working for a broad-based opposition coalition, like what we see happening with the other camp now? Because if you have to get the CPDM out of power, which is very well...
When you say with the other camp, I presume you are talking of the camp of those who want to go out on Wednesday.
Yes.
I mean on Tuesday, 22nd.
Tuesday, yes.
Tell me which opposition political parties are there. Because when we talk of the other camp that are mobilizing, we know the political parties that are like the, what they call noyau in French, the hardcore in Cameroon. Which of them is there? Which of them? I just told you here that I saw a final communique that they came out. Even those who were agitating with them before are withdrawn. So when you talk of building a coalition, which coalition are we talking about? Even their campaign manager during the last election are now fighting them. So we cannot build such a coalition. We are building a coalition that is solid and very strong. That will not come to and tell the Cameroonians through the media that we have a coalition when we don't have any. Are you getting me?
Yes.
And we have an experience of building coalitions. Remember the Union for Change, that won presidential election in 1992, was a coalition built by us. And you saw what happened. We have an experience of building coalition. We don't want to build Facebook coalitions. We want to build coalitions on the field.
Okay. Now, what is the take of the Social Democratic Front with what is happening in the Northwest region? The Northwest region, Mezam division particularly, is under an indefinite lockdown. Is the SDF worried about that? What is the SDF doing?
Let me tell you something. Iron sharpens iron.
Okay.
When you have war dogs taking over and dictating the line of action, you also have war dogs from the other side coming. There is a law of physics that says every force brings about an opposite and equal reaction. And that is why the SDF has always strongly said that this issue is not about war. So far as Mr. Biya and his team think that the Anglophone problem can be solved by force, you will be having every action countered by a reaction equal to the force. That is the problem. How do you imagine that in a region where poverty has taken over the day because of the strife going on, and in Cameroon now, one of the biggest source of livelihood of the community of graduates, school leavers, is motorbike, where they used to feed their families. You come and say that they don't have to circulate again. And this is in a region that has been declared as an economic disaster zone. You signed and said you don't have to see them again. And they live on that. How will you imagine that it will not create a consequence that is graver than the solution he wanted to provide? It is, when this thing started in 2016 with the consortium, they were out for reforms. Unfortunately, two contradictory voices came out from the government. Those moderates who wanted this problem to be solved, and war dogs who wanted to use the hammer. Unfortunately, Mr. Albia listened to those who wanted to use the hammer to solve the problem. And so the consortium was helpless, faced with those who wanted to use the hammer. So when the consortium was helpless to continue because the hammer, they could not withstand the hammer, an opposite reaction equal to the action came with guns. Because the guns were being used, the hammer is the guns. So an opposite reaction equal to the action came. And so we have warlords from both sides. That is the regular army and an opposite reaction from Amazonian fighters. And so the population is caught in between crossfire. Rather than trying to appease and look for an alternative way to solve the situation, the government is energizing the war approach more and more. How will it not lead to more violence?
Okay, we unfortunately out of time. Lots and lots of things that were prepared for you this evening. Unfortunately, we can't ask them because the time allocated for this program is almost done. My last question to you now is, what is the roadmap by the Social Democratic Front for a way out of the current Anglophone crisis?
Dialogue, dialogue, and dialogue. Not the type of sham thing that was organized in Yaoundé. The type of dialogue that will put the root causes of the Anglophone problem on the table. I will even go to as far as saying negotiations.
Okay.
Yes, because when there is war with so many deaths, we have to go beyond just dialogue and talk of negotiations, because the restoration of the power of the Anglophones is very dear to the Social Democratic Front.
Okay.
Some people think that that restoration means to create a new country. We don't believe in that. We think that the restoration of the authority of the Anglophones, of the autonomy of the southern people, of indigenous people of southern Cameroon, which today is the northwest and southwest, can be done within the institutional framework if the political will is there, if empathy is there, if sincerity is there, if we look at how we have eroded almost what constituted Anglophone values. From 1961, then, when they willingly came and joined the Republic of Cameroon, at that time it was called La République du Cameroun, joined till 1972, that they abolished everything, and then till 1985, which they adopted the name that was given to the Francophone component of the country, till now that they started sending French teachers to go and teach with pidgin in English schools, as if we cannot teach, train English teachers to teach there, sending French magistrates to go and settle cases in French, a language that the litigants don't understand, and sending French administrators to go like duals, governors, to go and minister a people whom they don't understand their language. So if we are sincere to follow this historical trajectory, to see how far we have drifted from the common goal that the forefathers of this country, Foncha, Muna, Endele, had, we can follow that to see how far we have drifted and be sincere, be empathic enough to sit down and discuss and put constraining mechanisms that can make no leader to slip into the pathway that Aijo and Mr. Abia slipped into. I think the Anglophone problem can be settled. It is for that reason that we feel that the situation is still manageable if we are sincere and follow that trajectory. Any other thing, if Mr. Abia and the regime think that it is by force, I'm afraid to say that they are instead opening a boulevard for the splitting of the country.
Okay, we just have to end at this juncture. The Social Democratic Front is not part of the 22nd September manifestation.
Correct.
And it's not going for the regional elections.
Correct.
For reasons advanced. If you missed this edition of the program, it's going to be yours again 1 p.m. on Thursday on My Media Prime. But if you joined us late, you can follow the program on our Facebook page, My Media Prime Facebook page. You get it from start to finish. We are glad to be part of this show. We equally are very grateful that you left all the way from Yaoundé to come and talk to the population, to Cameroonians using our channel.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. It has been wonderful sharing our position through your media house, and I want to once more thank the viewers who took their time to listen to us. We are very available for whatever questions on some of these issues. Thank you once more.
Okay. We hope that the Social Democratic Front is going to stay regular on our different TV programs, especially political programs. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.